I myself come from the land of the Sami people up in northern Europe. She is an Embera leader from Panama and the president of the coordination of women and territorial leaders of the AMVP. She's also working within the Global Alliance for Territorial Communities. So Sarah, please.
Buenas tardes, mi lengua emberá, hermanos y hermanas. Soy Sara Omi, vengo del pueblo emberá de Panamá, presidenta de la Coordinadora de Mujeres Líderes Territoriales de Mesoamérica, de la UNPFII. En este espacio que nos convoca, quiero saludar a todos los líderes que se encuentran en este espacio, a mi hermano Juan Carlos, secretario de la Alianza Global de Comunidades Territoriales, a Francisco de la Fundación Indígena, y a todos los que se encuentran en este espacio. Cuando hablamos de estos espacios, de convocar a nuestros abuelos, a nuestras abuelas, de pedir permiso, en este caso que desde mi cosmovisión emberá, hablar de Ancoré, que es el Dios que nos permite poder, que nos ha otorgado todo lo que hoy podemos sentir, pensar, convivir, dialogar, y este espacio pues nos permite justamente cómo seguir manifestando nuestras luchas, nuestra estrategia para seguir defendiendo a nuestra madre tierra que tanto nos necesita. Y que esto no puede estar separado de nuestra espiritualidad, de la relación que tenemos con nuestro bosque, de esa conexión que nos permite con mucha sabiduría poder expresarlo en todos nuestros espacios de incidencia, de sacrificio, de lucha para poder lograr a que nuestros derechos sean respetados, sean garantizados dentro de nuestros territorios. Y sobre todo también vincular el espacio también que nos permite como mujeres indígenas de poder estar presente en estos temas donde no podemos estar aparte de estos diálogos que también nos convocan, porque somos nosotras, las mujeres indígenas, las que estamos en las primeras líneas de las afectaciones. Y quisiera pedirle a todos ustedes que esa conexión que sentimos como pueblos indígenas pueda llegarle a cada una de ustedes, y que ese ánimo se siga manteniendo para poder acompañar nuestras luchas incansables que tenemos dentro de nuestro territorio. De esta manera puedo decirle que esa sabiduría pues se ha transmitido a cada uno de ustedes desde el pueblo al que pertenece, desde la organización en la que se encuentra, que se pueda conectar con nuestra sabiduría indígena. Muchísimas gracias por este espacio.
Thank you. So that's, and now we have the opening remarks. And for that, I will present Indu Omari Ibrahim. Most of you know all about her already. She's the vice president of the FSC Indigenous Foundation, but she is also the president of the Association for Indigenous Women and Peoples of Chad. She was yesterday elected as vice president of the ongoing permanent forum. So, Indu, welcome.
Thank you very much. I found that
it's like a big barrier between me and you. I just like turn the mic like this. I hope it's fine. So good afternoon. It's really a great pleasure to be with you here and today to open the side event of the FSC Indigenous Foundation and with the partnership with the FSC and with our Indigenous organization IPAR and with the USAID. I would like firstly to thank the partners, USAID and Indigenous organization IPAR, and also the FSC that really always believing on the Indigenous Foundation, joining even with us in supporting the Indigenous peoples to thrive in what we are doing the best. So as you know, this year, the thematic of the Permanent Forum is human health, planetary and territorial health, and climate change. And that's also exactly in the line of what the Indigenous Foundation is standing for, is fighting for, how the Indigenous peoples can protect their land, their territories, their forests, how we can use our traditional knowledge, how we can protect our home in order to protect the rest of the planet, how we can use our knowledge, how we can use our solutions, but how we can also better participate in the decision making when it's become to talk about our knowledge. Our rights have to be highlighted before our knowledge. When it has to be talked about our solutions, so our solutions must be paid back to our peoples. And that's what we are calling the knowledge exchange between all what we are doing with our partners. So this panel today is really to help that Indigenous peoples from the different sides of the world to share. But sharing is not always giving the information and that's it, but how we can move beyond having just a side event of sharing, but having the side event to construct the future together. And that means the direct access finance for Indigenous peoples. So Indigenous peoples work through a different platform and come up with 10 principles, inclusive one, to do not exclude the Indigenous peoples from the developed world because they say, oh, they are from the developed world. Because we have the same rich ecosystem, we have the same knowledge, and all the ecosystems are interconnected. So that helps us to come with the 10 principles to say how to better collaborate with other financial organizations. I know World Bank is here, Climate Fund is here. I know many other institutions of the finance are in the room. So how we can collaborate with the direct access finance for Indigenous peoples. Without that, we cannot achieve the goal of planet health and human health all together. And Indigenous peoples are the pioneers. And through the FSC foundations, that's what we wanted to drive. We wanted to drive that to go directly to the Indigenous communities on the ground. And I'm so happy to see my Indigenous sister, Sarah, from Ambera community here, because I visit Ambera communities in Panama. I saw how they are very rich, how they are living, the role of women, of man, of children, of youth, through the traditional knowledge in the middle of the forest of Panama, how they're protecting it. So we wanted to have a direct access finance to the communities in order to protect the forest and protect us. So please be happy enjoying the panel who's happening here and join the Permanent Forum for the next coming days and weeks, and we will be building the best future together. Thank you so much.
So we will now continue with the program. And next speaker will come from USAID, Stephanie Conda. She is the USAID Senior AP Leaders People's Advisor. She arrived in USAID 3 weeks ago. And she's a Cherokee with a lot of background working with both public and private issues. And I think she's better to speak for herself. So welcome up on the stage.
Orthio Tohichu. My name is Stephanie Conda. I am a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. I live in northeastern Oklahoma and work for USAID. I'm here with my colleague, Dee, who many of you know. Say hello. So USAID is into co-creation, and without V, we would not be here today. So let's thank V. I just want to thank each of you for joining us, and I really want to use this time to listen, to hear, and to learn. I am so thankful for the opportunity to work with the current administrator, Sam Powers, who is establish a goal for USAID that in the next 4 years, at least 25% of our development funding will be awarded to local partners. And that's what you're going to hear, those success stories here today. It's incredible to learn that IPARD has over 30 FPIC engagements that they've done in just one nation with Indigenous people. And there's so many other success stories that I've learned in our time here together. So I just want to say thank you so much for being so welcoming and for really helping USAID continue this important work. The solutions are here among us. They are anchored in Indigenous knowledge, with the current administration is focused on the work that we do interagency-wide, from the White House Council on Native American Affairs to our independent agency work, is all focused on what we all know in our hearts here, what we continue to advocate for decades. And I'm just so thankful to see a standing room only here today, so that we can celebrate that, learn from each other, and continue to really work together to solve problems with the solutions that we already know that we have. We just need to amplify those voices. Thank you for your time. Wada.
Thank you, Stephanie, for that. Now we will have a presentation of our new global strategic plan, and the man who's going to do that is Francisco Sousa. He is our managing director of the Indigenous Foundation. Francisco is a foreigner person from Brazil, but I guess you would like to present yourself a bit more. So please, Francisco.
Thank you, Wonders. Good afternoon, everyone. As Wonders says, I'm from the Brazilian Amazon. When we talk about the indigenous people and we try to talk about the finance, as the Hindu have mentioned at the beginning, we should consider that we are talking about the indigenous people in our community that we are managing this planet for centuries. So we are facing a huge opportunity nowadays that everyone, different stakeholders, they start to recognize the importance of the indigenous people to be on the table, to discuss, to provide the indigenous-based solution for us to safeguard the Mother Earth. But at the same time, we are still facing some challenges. Indigenous people in our community nowadays, we are still facing challenges because every outside there, we are talking about the capacity of the indigenous people to manage finance. When we see the history for centuries and centuries, actually we have provided the base that we have been successful to manage the planet. We have been successful to manage the Mother Earth. Here we are the best providers, partners to figure out together with other sectors to think about the implementation of the indigenous-based solution based on knowledge, ancestral knowledge, but it is to recognize the rights of the indigenous people to be on the table, to create long-term solution, made by, together, and with indigenous people. So I'm going to talk about the vision of the indigenous people, the Indigenous Foundation that we have created, as Anders mentioned at the beginning, to start with the indigenous people. So the foundation was created by indigenous people. We are here to serve indigenous people. You are here to work with the indigenous people. So the vision that we have as an organization is the fact that we are, as an organization, we are indigenous people. Your strategy action that we are going to work on the next 5 years for the organization came from ancestral knowledge, the Nazi cosmovision, and also the value and respect that we have to Mother Earth, and also to our part. We are indigenous people here. We are ancestral guardian of the indigenous-based solution. That's the key work stream that we have as organization, the Indigenous Foundation. We have a governance structure in Omayu. Here is the vice chair for the board. But also we have the participation of Gregory Mirabal, Nicholas Mudia from Asia, and others is the chair. But also we have the participation of Tim Carterson as a members of the FSC Forest Stewardship Council. On the long term of the next couple of years, we do have expectation to create a governance body composed by 100% of individual leaders part of the organization. So the Indigenous Foundation, we are a local entity. And as I say at the beginning, our mission, value, action should be driven by for together with indigenous people worldwide. That's the mission that we have. To give you a big picture, the organization that we have nowadays, we are talking about our organization of just 3 years of life. During the past 3 years, we have established cooperation with different organizations, indigenous people organizations, cover over 40 different countries in the planet. But also we are working together with 25 different strategic partners, technical partners to support, to be driven by indigenous people. We are talking here about a territory of 1.2 million hectares of the indigenous people local community territory that the Indigenous Foundation have engaged now. He also over 500 million hectares of the tropical forests. So, as I said at the beginning, the foundation, we are here to serve indigenous people. We are available to support indigenous people in strategic, technical, operational way, financial, to serve as the financial brands, but to work with or lead by indigenous people. The main aspect of the foundation for us to support self-determination. But the key element for the organization is the fact that we could be able to achieve the self-determination for the indigenous people if you have also self-governance. But self-governance by itself is not enough. We should have self-development. But at the same time, we should create a financial mechanism for the indigenous people to achieve financial sustainability and self-reliance. That's the 3 pillars that we have as our organization, the key elements that drive the operation in the strategy of the organization. But an important point here is that there is no possibility for a single actors to provide to support the indigenous people on different fronts, the different challenges that we are facing nowadays. That's why the Indigenous Foundation also, we are creating a multi-sector platform for the different sectors to be together and to support indigenous self-development, self-governance, but the key element here again, is that I want to stress again, is the fact that for us to be successful, we should be driven by or be together with indigenous people at the center of the table as the key partner. So in connection to the governance of the foundation, we are talking about the global platform of indigenous people. So the Indigenous Foundation also, we do have the connection with the permanent indigenous people committee. Rodium here is the chair of this global platform, part of the Forest Stewardship Council. It is a global committee as the representation of the different leaders in the planet. We are talking here about representation of Central America, Mexico, South America, Francophone, Africa, Anglophone, Africa, Oceania, Asia, Russia, Europe. We have together as part of this efforts of the Indigenous Foundation, our 18 different leaders. The Indigenous Foundation, we don't have the power to decide who is going to be the representation. We just provide the platform, the indigenous people organization for each region came together for them to discuss their priority, for them together to decide who is going to be the representation. The only gap that we have so far is for North America. So in US and Canada, we are going to organize over the maybe 2 months from now a regional meeting. In the tribes, the First Nation, we are going to facilitate. The rodeo is going to be the man to organize that meeting. And we are going to decide who's going to be the presentation, the principal, the alternative for the North American in Canada. And then we are going to have the global platform. The important thing here is the fact that the action, the priority, the strategy, the vision, the action plan that we have for the Indigenous Foundation is guided by the leaders. They are the motors. The PIPC, Rodan, I think, is going to talk about that. The PIPC is a key component of the implementation of the strategy of the foundation. As organizations, we, as I said before, the indigenous values, vision, and practice, ancestral knowledge, and traditions are important to protect the Mother Earth. But at the same time, as we think self-development, self-governance, and self-reliance as the key element for the operation of the foundation. That's implied that we should recognize, we should start with indigenous people for us to identify the key priorities that the organization is going to implement over the next 5 years. If you think the unique value that we have for the organization is that the Indigenous Foundation nowadays, we are led by and we work with before indigenous people, but at the same time, nowadays we have a high standard, international high standard in terms of the operation, management, implementation. So that's connected to the fact that most challenging or most important challenge that we have for the donors, for instance, nowadays is that they say the indigenous people organization, they don't have the capacity to manage money. We do. We do have the capacities. We do have the possibility to bring together, to negotiate. We do have possibility to organize a proposal. We do have a possibility to put on the table the strategy, the action that for us to be successful together. So that's one important asset that you can see as for the organization, but at the same time, as I say at the beginning, there is no possibility for us to achieve success if we don't have cooperation across different sectors. That's why the Indigenous Foundation nowadays, we have a partnership model with high-level organization, including here the USAID, but also the FSC, but the UN so far has been a very important partner for us because that has created a platform for us to engage with different governments at the global level. At the same time, with the Indigenous Foundation, we have composition of the governance, the staff, the leadership with strong multicultural multi-level capacity to bring together an important asset for the organization as well. But the foundation, at the same time, as we have created the capacity to convey an indigenous people organization for different parts of the planet, for being together with us as a partner. And also to define the key priorities for the organization for the next 5 years. Again, the multi-sectoral model that we have for the organization has created opportunity for us as an organization to work at different level, at the global level, regional level, but also to implement action at the national level. So one important aspect for the Indigenous Foundation is the fact that we don't want to have the organization the leaders. So the foundation is a facilitator. It's a platform to facilitate process. For us to be able to facilitate process, we should empower, we should create strength, the capacity of the indigenous people, organization, the partners that are going to manage directly the money. And that's why we have, as part of the management strategy of the foundation, that's what we call indigenous project management approach. Because the approach has the ambition to provide indigenous people organization on the ground with the full capacity to receive money, to manage the money, to negotiate money, and to scale up on different strategies. So specifically on this process, the Indigenous Foundation as an organization we have the full commitment to follow the same 10 principles that Indo has mentioned before, in the same principle as the guidance of the operations, management, and governance of the foundation. We have followed the same 10 principles created by indigenous people, part of the UN Permanent Forum. So you finally, as organization, the Indigenous Foundation is fit for purpose. So let's say that we start with indigenous people, and we are executing program in finance for it together with indigenous people worldwide. I just want to go very fast on the strategy that we have designed. In the past 1 year, we spent some time with different sectors, different partners, different indigenous people organizations, for us to organize the proposal that I'm going to summarize with you. The first step, of course, was to start with data, for us to start complaining. But the most important one is the fact that I'd like to highlight the fact that for the strategy that I'm going to share with you, we have implemented indigenous consultation, but at the same time is validation of the strategy with different indigenous organization partners and other strategic partners. And finally, almost 1 month ago, we have the approval from the board of the foundation. The values that you have on the strategy that are values is the value of indigenous people. The value is to respect the Mother Earth. That means that to manage our land, waters, the ecosystem with great respect to nature, and thereby recognize that we only borrow from the future generation. The second value that we have is we should respect the ancestral knowledge. That implies that keeping our promises to our ancestors to manage nature, either the resource provided by the Mother Earth in a sustainable and respectful way. The principle that you have is, as organization, we should respect and we have a recognition. That implies that our action respect and recognize the cultural, spiritual, traditional entity, landscape, diversity, the customer, the right for self-determined development, people, and community. But at the same time, for individual people, trust is very important. That's why I have incorporated as part of the principle trust. That means that we drive our action in partnership guided by commitment, trust building, in long-term reciprocal, adopting transparency, accountable, sharing commitment, value guided by ancestors and tradition. We have also a component of diversity inclusion. That means that for promoting, we should promote the diversity inclusion in all interaction across all aspects of our organization, use indigenous cosmovision in practice to prevent any type of racism, discrimination, violence, oppression. And finally, equity is one of the final principles for the organization. We promote value action and efforts to produce more equitable, diverse, inclusive result, collective benefit sharing with equal balance and respect to cultural, gender, ecological, traditional diversity. The mission that we have is the fact that we work to elevate indigenous people in their contribution to protect Mother Earth. We recognize them as providers of solution partners to fight against global challenges. Our vision is that we envision a future where indigenous lead solution, action, generate 1/4 of the planet to safeguard the future of everyone in the Mother Earth. Now, to think about the theory of change that we have for the organization. When we think about the different challenges that indigenous people we are facing nowadays, it starts with access to money, access to grant mechanisms. So the strategy was established by the access to finance as a key constraint for indigenous people organization. But even if you have access to finance, we are going to continue to face challenges. That is not going to be enough. We should have a component also to promote indigenous exchange. It should use the knowledge that we have already for centuries and centuries of indigenous people on the ground. It connects that with a strategy to promote cross sectors capacity building development, because it's not only about the capacity of the indigenous people. The donors, the other sectors there outside, they also need to have capacity for them to better work with indigenous people on the ground. If that's a second component. If you have finance, if you have capacity exchange, that is also, they are not going to be knowledge. We also have the possibility to create a space for indigenous people to have a strong advocacy, the visibility for them to promote strong leadership on the ground. On the first strategic theme that I mentioned connect to the finance, we see as an organization that we do have the possibility to reduce transaction costs, the risk to financial, the donor partners, and to have the Indigenous Foundation approach that we have so far implementing as an Indigenous-led grant mechanism to promote Indigenous-led funding management by all incorporate continual learning by donors, but also the risk management approach in the partnership. Just for you to understand the secret step that we have when we think about the grant bank part of the Indigenous Foundation, we start with culture analysis, regional analysis, and then we continue to have some series of collaborative section with indigenous people organizations. The FPIC is a key component of that step. We together with them design concept, we design a proposal, think about multi-year work plan, and then we have due diligence process for us to identify opportunity to promote capacity of the indigenous people, and then finally we have the grant mechanism implemented. And then we are going to, together with them, to implement monitoring, evaluation, social learning for them to learn, doing by the implementation of the mechanisms that they approach. The institutional the organization's training that you have for the organization, that's implied that the indigenous people, we are facilitating multi-sector collaboration. We provide the basis, the technical space for them to lead the process. Just to give a number, since the 2020, we have provided, we have a total of 1,500 participants, including indigenous people, non-indigenous people organization, provide training, provide exchange. We are talking here about 42 countries engaged so far, but also we have created 26 different capacity building strategies. So the advocacy here is basically the opportunity that we're working to influence the national government, the other stakeholders at the regional and the global legal world. All this space for the indigenous people to be there to influence the policy. That is an important part that I'd like to share with you. I just mentioned at the beginning the theory of change. We start with the finance, then to think about the social exchange, capacity building, and then to think advocacy. But at the same time, we have 6 strategic areas in terms of the implementation. We have the indigenous cultural landscape as a space. The action that we are going to implement as the organization, we call the indigenous cultural landscape. When you call indigenous cultural landscape, is for us to recognize the culture, to recognize the knowledge, to recognize the traditional way how indigenous people manage their territory on the ground. That's the core. That's the core of our action. But also we have 6 different programmatic areas. We are going to implement action connected to indigenous environmental conservation, biodiversity, and climate, indigenous economy, finance, indigenous sustainable natural resource management. It's 3 different cross programmatic areas. We should have the action connected to the social inclusion. We should respect FPIC as a core element, but also connect to FPIC advocacy, incidency, also indigenous knowledge, social learning, and capacity. So I'd like to finalize with this slide. So far, the I part is indigenous people alliance for rights development, that we have a strategic partnership with the USAID, other stakeholders. The FSC is a global initiative that we're implementing. We are using as a seed money to start the implementation of the foundation and connect to the strategy that we have so far. the IPART has created opportunity for us to create with different sectors to secure the indigenous people rights, to strengthen capacity, also to catalyze economic self-development. A second initiative that we have, we call Indigenous Women's Girls Economic Empowerment, is that imply that we want to create a legal condition for the indigenous peoples, women, girls, to achieve self-development by then incorporate them as part of the governance, the other solution, regional-based solution that we have talked. So thank you very much, Andres. Thank you to lead the next part. Thank you.
Lead it, but let Salina lead it. Salina Sanu is our the director for the IPART program. She is having her office in Nairobi, Kenya, and she will be moderating a panel discussion. So Salina, please take the floor.
So, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Where I come from, we say, habari gani? Okay. So we're coming to another exciting part of this program this afternoon. You've listened to the presentations from our colleagues who went before us, and we've also listen to the presentation of our new global strategy 2023-2027, quite exciting. So we are now going to turn to another panel that is going to be looking at questions, responding to particular questions. But I just want to add or to echo what was said earlier on, that without USAID, Stephanie, who are here today, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. So thank you very much for that partnership that has given us this opportunity to be able to ask the foundation to implement a very exciting program. And I would like to also echo what Dr. Sousa said, that we are a very unique global indigenous foundation working globally. I have not seen myself personally any other global organization of this nature working on indigenous issues, indigenous rights at that level. So we are very unique. We've been given the 7 reasons why we are really unique as a foundation working on this issue. So we pride ourselves with that, and we feel very privileged that we have that capacity and the niche to be able to work on issues of indigenous people globally, and to be able to be in a position to also manage monies and funds given to indigenous people worldwide. So we really pride ourselves for that. Now we for the second session of this conversation, we have 3 experts who are going to speak to us on several issues based on what they have heard from our new strategic global strategy. So I'm going to invite them to come to the front, to the desk, as I call their names. So the first person that we have is Sarah Omi, and Sarah is the president of the coordinator of women territorial leaders of UNPFII. Sarah, welcome to the front. Thank you very much. The second person is Rodio. I'm always having difficulty pronouncing this second name. And Rodio is the chairperson of the FSC Permanent Indigenous Peoples Committee, PIPC. Welcome, Rodio. And lastly, we have Gideon Olesanago, is the coordinator for the Climate Change Pastoralist Indigenous Non-Governmental Organizations Bingo Forum from Tanzania. So Roger is from Russia, Sarah is from Panama, and Gideon is from Tanzania. So we really have a panel that is quite exciting from different sources. And lastly, we also have Daniel. Kindly, Daniel, come in front. So Daniel Kobe is the director of the Okiek People's Development Program and my compatriot from Kenya. So welcome, Daniel, to this forum, and let's start the conversation. So we are going to have some very quiet conversation today, and we are going to start with Sarah. And the first question I'm going to ask you, Sarah, based on what you've heard from the presentations, including the presentation of our global strategy, can you expand on the climate change strategies that FSC Indigenous Foundation will promote or should promote and implement with Indigenous peoples?
Nuevamente quiero agradecer a la Fundación Indígena, a su programa FSC-IF y a USAID por la oportunidad que nos brindan de tomar en cuenta también la participación de las mujeres en este espacio, que es muy necesario también poder dialogar y construir visiones que integren todas las visiones que luchan sobre todo por la defensa de los derechos territoriales. De acuerdo a la pregunta, primero quiero comentarle que cuando hablamos de salvaguarda es muy importante para los pueblos indígenas en todo el mundo debido a que las presiones ya conocidas en las que vivimos en los territorios, pues es necesario dialogarla. A nivel de mi lucha, a nivel de mi comunidad, a nivel regional, a nivel pues junto a otras mujeres de toda la región, nos invita a pensar en salvaguardas que incluyan a las mujeres indígenas. Es uno de los grandes desafíos, cómo podemos avanzar también para la participación de las mujeres en todos los espacios, y aún más cuando hablamos de los efectos del cambio climático. Las mujeres estamos en la primera línea pues, de las afectaciones, pero a la vez estamos construyendo nuestra propia visión, nuestra propia forma de cómo reparar a nuestra madre tierra que está enferma. Se hablan de muchos conceptos en cuanto a la protección de nuestros derechos, pero en la gran mayoría estos conceptos no definen o no protegen en sí las realidades en que vivimos los pueblos indígenas, y esto es uno de los mecanismos que a través de la Fundación Indígena podemos alcanzar construyendo pues de la mano todas estas estrategias que permitan sobre todo la supervivencia de los pueblos indígenas, garantizando la promoción de los derechos a acceso a la tierra, al respeto de los conocimientos tradicionales de nuestros pueblos, y de igual manera cómo no repetir, cómo hacer que no se repitan las malas prácticas de vulneración de derechos. En el caso mío, vengo de un territorio reubicado que fue desplazado forzosamente por la construcción o a nombre del desarrollo, la construcción de una hidroeléctrica donde hemos perdido nuestras vidas porque nuestros conocimientos se perdieron, quedaron bajo el agua. No existe una reparación o no va a existir nunca una reparación de tan magnitud y pérdida de conocimiento que se quedaron. Y en este caso, las mujeres, y retomo algunas palabras de mi madre, que recientemente contaba no tenía zapatos para poder salir de su comunidad, pero tuvo que buscar mecanismos para vestir y llegar a Ciudad de Panamá e incidir por las luchas de nuestro pueblo para que las mismas fuesen respetadas, se garantizaran esa protección, acceso al territorio, y creo que las mujeres no debemos pasar por estos detalles que lastiman y afectan nuestra colectividad, que afectan sobre todo el impacto de las mujeres, y siento que es el momento de poder tomar acciones concretas que vayan de la mano con el trabajo que realizamos los pueblos indígenas, las mujeres. Esto por un lado, y de igual manera contarles que a nivel de la región también que trabajamos en el componente de una alianza global de comunidades donde estamos vinculadas a las mujeres. Hemos conocido la experiencia de lucha, por ejemplo, de mujeres de Indonesia que luchan contra la expansión de los monocultivos en Brasil, que luchan también contra el avance de la minería, y que debemos buscar esas alternativas que nos permita pues, efectivamente garantizar nuestros derechos. Tenemos que también reflexionar qué tenemos que hacer todos en conjunto para poder curar, sanar a nuestra madre tierra. Y sanar y curar a nuestra madre tierra no significa que hay que seguir vulnerando los derechos de los pueblos indígenas. Necesitamos alcanzar a que efectivamente estos derechos se nos garanticen, y el trabajo que tenemos dentro de nuestros territorios permita justamente visibilizar nuestras voces y construir esa alianza de estrategia que se necesitan en todos los ámbitos del marco de nuestros derechos. Gracias.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sarah. The translation wasn't really working for me. I wish I could have understood exactly what was being said so that I could do a little recap, but I'm sure she's done a great job in unpacking the question that was put to her. Thank you so much. Now, and I forgot to say, each person has not slightly less than 10 minutes to be able to cover the question that you are given, so that we can also give the participants a chance to come back with questions and some discussions. Now I would like to invite Rodio. And Rodio, I have a question for you. And that I would like for you to be able to tell us, what is the indigenous cultural landscape approach, according to your understanding, the way you understand that? And can you give examples on how FSC Indigenous Foundation should be implementing this approach? Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, all. Thanks for your time being with us today. And it's a great pleasure for me to congratulate the foundation with this side event. My name is Rodion Sulenziga, and I'm an indigenous person from the Russian Eastern Siberia. My community called Udege means forest people in my mother tongue. So we are forest dependent community, and of course we are so honored to be part of this family. And also I am the chairperson of the Permanent Indigenous Peoples Committee. It's an advisory board to the International Board of Directors FSC. And our main mission and task to bring indigenous voice to the table, to provide any kind of advice, recommendation to the FSC related to indigenous peoples and their rights. It's not so easy task. You know that FSC, it's a very technical and a membership organization with a very complicated language. So, why we are at the table? Because we don't want to be behind. In order to have influence, in order to work together, we should be at the table. Otherwise, we will be a part of the menu, right? So that is our main mission. And we are founder of the Indigenous Foundation, jointly with the FSC International. And we are so glad to see the strong dynamic of Indigenous Foundation development. And the current manifestation of global trends toward Indigenous peoples' empowerment is found in many guidelines, policies, and documents adopted by international organizations such as United Nations. We appreciate the crowning document, United Nations Declaration on the Right of Indigenous Peoples. But in virtue of lack of experience, legal, economic, institutional background, Indigenous peoples and their rights can be easily manipulated by those acting not in a good place. We as Indigenous peoples make enormous contribution to this planet and other people. And the big contribution is sharing our resources and our lands. But its exploitation has already exceeded all possible and acceptable limits. Our culture survives only if it has enough confidence in its future. Indigenous peoples must have their rights, basic rights, which are not concessions or privilege, but rights. Indigenous peoples contribute so little to climate catastrophe and disaster, and yet we have the knowledge to tackle and have still little power, political power in the house. We always listen and hearing that people want to save the planet so that it can sustain us. But our planet knows how to heal itself. And our planet does not need saving. We do. We must change our minds and our approaches. In that sense, many of us, Indigenous leaders, have a special kind of courage that are going against the government policy, financial institutional strategies, conservation plans, and many others. And in doing this, human rights defenders and Indigenous activists as well are not trying to change the existing system. We are trying to show that the existing model is obsolete. It is critical to reframe the ways in which Indigenous issues are discussed and handled. Yesterday, we witnessed and celebrate the United Nations Government Forum on Indigenous Issues opening ceremony. And we see all three top levels of United Nations officers came to the opening ceremony. For the first time, we saw General Secretary, General Assembly President, ECOSOC President. I think it's quite symbolic, not just after pandemic time, but I think it's also strong acknowledgement of Indigenous people's role under this very turbulent world and on the way to the future. With regards to the Indigenous cultural landscape, yes, I would like to say that it embodies the combined work of Indigenous peoples and nature. Connection between nature and Indigenous communities has persisted throughout the world, despite of centuries of colonization, displacement, and suppression of their cultural identity. And we as indigenous peoples across the world have been managing the land for generations. There is a lot to be done from indigenous land management and their practices and how to manage land sustainably. And I still believe that only together, through the partnership, creation, strong alliances, we can overcome the situation.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Thank you very much. We've heard about the role of indigenous people in protecting Mother Earth. Now, I'm going to go to the third speaker, with Gideon. And Gideon, the question I'm giving to you, according to your understanding of what the presentations are, or you can add more beyond that, is what are the strategies that FSC-IF is implementing or should be implementing to promote and expand indigenous economy and nature-based solutions. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, moderator Sarah. I just begin to say I really thank you so much, the TFS, the FS, the foundation, FSC Foundation, to give me an opportunity to be one of the speakers today at this very important side event. And also, I take this opportunity also to thank the partners who are supporting this great work by these foundations to bring all the indigenous people together and raise their voices and advocacy issues around the rise, around the rise of indigenous people globally. I come from Tanzania and I work for Pingos Forum, Pastoralist Indigenous NGO Forum. It is an umbrella of 55 indigenous people organizations across the country. And we are doing advocacy, policy issues, human rights, environment and climate change. And I belong to the Maasai community. I've listened to the presentation from the director on strategies of these foundations. And I must say it is really an important strategy that's trying to address issues around challenges facing indigenous people globally. For the Tanzania indigenous people, we the Maasai, we are the real conservators. We are not, told on how to conserve our land, our forests, our territories, the biodiversity conservation issues. We are the real conservators. And about the national park in Tanzania, the game control area, the conservation established in Tanzania, will then belong to indigenous people territory. This means that we are the real conservators. We are friends to nature. We conserve the lands, thus has plenty wildlife, plenty forests, and all the biodiversity around. These are the land that was up by indigenous people, the Maasai indigenous people, and the hunter-gatherers called the Hadzabe. But what we are currently facing, the biggest challenge that we are facing currently is instead of being appreciated and acknowledged for the sacrifice we made to conserve the land, the natural resources and forests, is we are being forced evictions. criminalization of the environmental and human rights defenders, displacement of indigenous people from their ancestral land. The current example is the famous Ngorongoro Loliondo Conservation Area Authority, that the government of Tanzania took the land of indigenous people in the name of conservation, but it really is not conservation. It is about the business, the hunting trophy from the Arab royal family. Imagine as we speak, in the Masai land in Loliondo, there is a big airport, bigger than even the international airport of Dar es Salaam and Kilimanjaro. There are direct flights from the Arab Emirates through to direct and land to the land of indigenous people. And the government is in support of this. And people were, evicted from their ancestral land. Many of them were jailed. Many of them, 1,000 of indigenous people flew to Kenya to seek for refugees in order to, protect their lives. So we are a bit nowadays sensitive on issues around conservation, because when the land becoming and forest becoming intact is where the governments also attract the investment around the conservation, as well as doing a business, hunting, and all those activities that are not friendly to conservation. So indigenous people nowadays are a bit sensitive on conservation issues because they are worrying to lose their land. So this is the big challenge that we are facing. That's what I would like to share, and I'm ready to receive any questions about what we have spoken about. Thank you so much.
Shukran, Gideon. I think it's a very important issue, which probably will also, Daniel will continue to speak to it, and that's about conservation, where governments use the name conservation and to pick out the very people who have been conserving those territories for years. And you come and say, now we are conserving, we want to get rid of you, but actually it's another way of wanting to grab the land so that they can use with their counterparts within the private sector on issues that are really not beneficial to the indigenous people. So that's really good to know. We all know about the Loliondo case. I think we even at the Indigenous Foundation, we wrote to express our disappointments with the government for doing this. The same issues are happening in Kenya in different ways. So I would like to invite now Daniel, who will probably also speak the same thing, but the question I'm directing to Daniel is much more around, and it's very practical. Daniel, given Okiek people experience, can you talk about the rights-based approaches to guarantee the IP traditional or cultural landscapes? In this case, for you, I guess we're speaking about the forest as a landscape, or of the indigenous people. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Selina. First, let me tell you that I was not part of the program. So it's like I hijacked, or Francisco decided to put me in. But I decided, like in my culture, they say when there is alternative dispute resolution, and you find people who are just by the roadside, they are talking about how to broker some issues. They always say, maybe that guy who is passing by will be of great assistance. So they allow him or her to sit by, and maybe the fellow who will broker the situation will be able to make it more interesting. I'm from an Ogiek community who are forest people. We call the Ogiek means people who are lovers or caretakers of flora and fauna. And as my brother was talking, I said, I think we are from the same tribe. It's only the difference is that he's in Russia and I'm in Africa, but we have the similar situation as he was talking about it. And for us, there's a lot about landscape, and many people want our land because it is fast, it's wide. So everybody wants to have a portion of it. The land also is so wealthy with very good soil. Agriculturists want to have it for agribusiness and sightline. The government look at it in terms of carbon credit. They want to have it so that they can make money. So for the Ogier community who have been fighting for their rights in Mau, and until to the regional courts, they realized that their land was under a lot of conflict with the government. We went through the Kenyan courts and it could not succeed until we realized, let's go to the regional courts, and we won twice. The first one on merit, the second on reparations, where now the greatest challenge is issue of implementation. And I call upon all of you to help us in pushing for implementation. But as we were doing that, the Ogier community decided we cannot just be watching when our land is getting destroyed in the name of agribusiness and satellite. We started rehabilitation work with the Ogier Scouts to see that they protect together with the government. We didn't fight with the government. We just told them, well, as we are waiting for the implementation, let's work together and have a kind of a tripartite kind of arrangement where we are working with Kenya Forest Service guards, the Ogier community, and the surrounding to see that we protect the forest from illegal destruction, illegal logging, which sometimes are geared by the people from the government themselves because of corruption. Many people don't want to talk about corruption, but it is real in Africa and many other countries where illegal, the way they give their licenses and sidelines. But today I will want to tell you that sometimes people get silenced because of the situation. We have bees in stingless bees. When it rains, they don't move. And they are just, I don't know whether some of you have heard of this, stingless bees. It rains and they have a way they go up and down. But when it is raining season, the way they cover it, and there's no water going in, they will still survive until when there is no rain, they move around. So sometimes fear and threats makes us sometimes to go down, but we have not yet forgotten our role to fight for the rights of the Ogier communities and other indigenous communities. We work closely with my brother when there was eviction in Loliondo. And all these, because the land belonging to these communities are under threat. And what we are only requesting from USAID and the rest is that let us understand the issues of indigenous peoples. So because they are very unique, they have to be, sometimes it may not fit exactly how you have listed the 7 points or the 5 points. You have to find a lot of cross-cutting because it is a nexus of issues, which it is good to understand from indigenous people's perspective so that become easy for implementation. Because sometimes say, oh, you don't fall under any of our points. But in reality, we fall somewhere because we are dealing with landscape and issues of indigenous people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I think that was really an expansion of what Gideon has started, and we are beginning to understand the bigger picture of the problem of land rights, especially in Eastern Africa. I'm told that we need to close, time is running out. Let me just allow maybe one very quick question from the room. I will now not take the online one, but just one very good question that the panelists can speak to very quickly if there is any question. And then I will invite my boss, the chair, to come and close this session officially. Yes, thank you. Thank you, David.
quick question for any of the panelists. What role, if any, can technology play in
Anybody wants to take that?
What kind of technology? Information technology or?
artificial intelligence, information technology for monitoring, reporting, verification? Is there any role it can be used for supporting?
Yes, thank you. It's a very relevant question. Of course, we are living in a very technological time. And for me, technology is a part of monitoring. So without this, we will be failed. So of course, we as indigenous peoples, we are a little behind of technology, but that is a big space we should improve, and we are working upon this. But it is the biggest question. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Let me now call Mr. Bloom to come and close this official. Oh, there you want still one. Okay, very quickly.
On artificial technology, yes. There's nowadays a growing concern on carbon trading. And for the communities called HADs that they have mentioned before, they have their own forest, and there's a lot of investors in their land investing on carbon trading issues. And one of the significant concerns that I have had from them a couple of weeks ago, I was in the community, is that they need drones to monitor their forest. So I think this question you posed to us is really, really relevant. So community need to monitor their forest through using the technology issues such as drone and others. So maybe I'm answering the question.
Thank you very much. A big hand to the wonderful panel. Thank you very much. Yes, I do have presents for the panelists. Yeah. High-tech. Yeah, they're not very high-tech, but I conserve them in the name of conservation. Seriously conserve them. Karibu sana. Karibu sana. Karibu sana. Okay. Karibu sana.
Thank you, Selena. I'm fully moderated. Thank you.
So we are now starting to come to the end of this event, and I want to thank everyone who has contributed to creating interesting content in this meeting. Before we end, however, I would like to reflect a little on what has been said and on the significance of the work that we have started with the FSC Indigenous Foundation. We have heard, as always, inspiring words from the FSC-IF's Vice President Hindu Umar about the importance of empowering indigenous people. Stephanie Conduct from USAID has convincingly described USAID's ambition to empower indigenous people through their work. And we have heard from Francisco Souza about the new strategy that we at FSC Indigenous Foundation have adopted, and which will guide our work in the coming years. A work that we will hope lead to indigenous peoples in different parts of our world in the indigenous cultural landscapes being able to contribute to a better world for themselves and for all others who populate Mother Earth. Our panelists, Sarah, Rodion, and Gideon, and Daniel, have generously shared their wisdom, and I would especially like to mention the Embera flights on losing land due to hydropower. I would like to quote Rodion, who said, "The planet need not to be saved, but we do." Gideon talked about the stealing of Maasai land in the name of conservation. That's a thought. And Daniel also expressed the need for support for the implementation of the Arusha Court's ruling concerning the Mau forests. Indigenous people live in a world that presents both opportunities and threats. But let me remind you that Indigenous people number over 470 million across the world. Land is fundamental assets for the sustainable economic development of Indigenous peoples. Indigenous people are the true stewards of the Indigenous cultural landscape where they operate. They perform this stewardship on 25% of the global landmass. Only 7.5% of a million hectares of Indigenous people's land in its land have legally recognized rights. Right now, Indigenous cultural landscapes are disappearing due to illegal logging, extractive industry, energy projects, infrastructure development, and climate change. Indigenous people have been the world's nature-based solution providers for thousands of years. This role has been recognized by international climate actors who have identified Indigenous-based solutions and key programmatic priorities of the next decade. Despite this, it is less than 1% of official development assistance and funds for climate change that goes towards Indigenous peoples and local communities, land tenure, and forest management. It might be seen as an irony, but right now, Indigenous people and their traditional ecosystem services are affected in several ways by the ongoing climate disaster. First, the Indigenous people and their traditional ecosystem services and cultures have been negatively affected by the climate change. Now, the same Indigenous people and their culture and ecosystem services are also severely affected by the adaptation measures implemented to reduce fossil dependency. We call this the new green colonialism. In our strategy to promote Mother Earth, we, the FSC Indigenous Foundation, have therefore stated Indigenous people are not part of the problem, but part of the solution. In order to make use of Indigenous people's knowledge as the good stewards we are, the right of Indigenous people must be respected, and free, prior, and informed consent must be globally integrated into a relationship between Indigenous peoples and competing land interests. Indigenous people must, to a greater extent than today, receive the financial promises about climate support that have been promises in the last COP meetings. I want to end this meeting by reminding us of the biblical story of David and Goliath. As you probably all remember, the young boy David defeated the great giant Goliath with the help of a sling and some small stones. As a metaphor, and we can see David as representative of the world's Indigenous people, while Goliath can be said to represent the modern prevailing big society. In this metaphor, it only took some small stones to bring Goliath down, to bring about a necessary change in both what David represented and what Goliath stood for. We, the FSC Indigenous Foundation, want to be one of those stones. Thank you.